Amy Forsythe, welcome to the show. I'm truly honored and excited to have you on the show today. You've traveled the world in service, gained invaluable insights through your interviews and experiences, and stood on the front lines, both in battle and in your continued mission to tell powerful stories.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to join you today.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I'm gonna give you a quick introduction here, real quick, for our audience to understand a little bit about your background. But I think they're gonna love this episode with everything that you've done in your career. So let me get started with that, if that's all right.
Thank you.
All right. So today's guest is Amy Forsythe. She's an award-winning military photojournalist who served in the U.S. Marines and is currently serving in the U.S. Navy Reserve as a public affairs officer. She served 5 combat tours and has been on assignment for several other overseas missions during her career. Her book, Heroes Live Here, a tribute to Camp Pendleton Marines, started as a passion project to showcase the memorials and markers on Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, and it turned into a collaborative work of art that honors our fallen Marines of the post 9/11 generation. She was named a success. She was named as Success Magazine's top 50 women of influence in 2022, and she was also inducted in the San Diego's County Women Hall of Fame in the historian category in 2023. She is a special correspondent for KCOT, local Oceanside TV station, and her passion is working with nonprofit organizations to promote services and resources to veterans in the San Diego area. Did I miss anything, Amy?
That covers most of it, definitely.
Awesome, awesome. And the book I have here in the background is heroeslivehere.com. Is that correct? Is that where people get that?
That's correct.
Awesome. I just heard my phone buzz. Let me make sure I have that on silent. I usually check that, and I did, which is great. So let's start off with how many years did you wind up serving? I know you're still serving in reserve, so you've been doing it quite a while, right?
That's right.
Now that you're in your 40s, maybe it's you've been serving for a little bit of time.
You're too kind. Yes, well, so I joined the Marines in 1993 when I was actually a little bit older. I was 22 when I joined the Marines
Okay.
out of Northern California, a place called Santa Rosa, just north of San Francisco. I was in the Marines for about 18 years total. So I served 8 years of active duty. Then I went into the reserves. I loved the Marine Corps. I just wanted to finish college and I couldn't do both at the same time. But then 9/11 happened. So I got mobilized many times while I was in the Marines. And then in 2010, I learned about an opportunity to do a commissioning program through the Navy. It was actually a colonel I was working for. He's like, you should check out this program. And I said, no way. I love being in the Marines with 18 years in. Of course, I was had my heart set on retiring from the Marine Corps, but I got accepted to the program, and that was 15 years ago. And so I'm still continuing to serve. I'm currently assigned to Naval Special Warfare in Coronado, San Diego.
Oh, nice. That's a tough place to be. Sorry to hear that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So you didn't join right out of high school then, right?
I didn't. I didn't. I
Yeah.
wanted to, but I just, my parents were hoping and wishing I would at least give college a try. And
Okay.
so I did that and I was working, but then Desert Storm, Desert Shield happened. And I was said, I want to do that. That prompted me to really take action and then join the Marines. So I was 22, which felt older at the time, but I think timing was everything. And so I caught this epic wave of deployments and just a great time to join with just a little couple years older than the rest of the Marines of my, group going through recruit training, the other women there, and then the Marines that I served with. So at that age and rank. So it gave me a little edge, a little
That's
extra
awesome.
edge.
You followed what you wanted to do, what your passion was, right? And it's amazing
Yes.
how people say, "Hey, you were really lucky because you did what you loved and you succeeded." I don't think there's obviously a correlation to succeeded when you do something that you love. Did you know what MOS you wanted, or did you set up a certain MOS when you enlisted?
I did. I definitely was inspired and attracted to sort of a community engagement. So my grandfather was a Marine in World War II, and my grandmother was an Army nurse. And they met during World War II and the island hopping campaigns in Guam and Saipan, as it turns out. And so the community engagement or Toys for Tots or something like that. And I was on the yearbook staff in high school. So I thought,
Okay.
how can I use my passion for storytelling and being a people person in the Marine Corps? And at the time, of course, women weren't allowed to serve in combat roles
Right.
or combat arms MOSs. So the recruiter said, I have a job for you. And then I said, can you
Of course
type?
he
I
does.
said, yes, yeah, right, right. I can type and write. And so became a combat correspondent. It was 4341 MOS. And so I thought if I could just learn really the master storytelling techniques, I could be a real value to the Marine Corps. So they assigned me to become a combat correspondent, and I was off to my boot camp, recruit training, and then my MOS school at Fort. At that time, it was Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indiana at a place called the Defense Information School.
That's awesome. I'm glad you were able to get the right MOS and follow what you love to do. And was your family on board for you to sign up and kick some butt in the Marine Corps?
Well, my parents were a little nervous for me, and my grandparents were thrilled that I would follow in their footsteps.
Okay.
But I needed to do something bold. I just felt that it was my destiny to leave my little small hometown and do something interesting and kind of get away from the core place. So like a lot of Marines, they're attracted to, I'm going to run off and join the circus, right? And so that's what really was just exciting to me, is just to experience new things and meet new people. And boy, did the Marine Corps deliver on that.
Yeah, I'm excited to find out a little bit more about your travels here in a little bit. What was one of the most valuable lessons you learned in the Marine Corps?
Well, I think that, when you throw a bunch of people together from all walks of life, you really have to step up and become, I would say, a leader, a friend, a mentor, a guide, a coach. Uh, those were the lessons I never really learned, as a kid. I was the firstborn of my siblings. So in the house, of course, if you're the firstborn, you take on and you assume leadership roles. You help your mom with things, you take care of the younger kids. And so those are my introductory lessons to leadership, as being the firstborn, assuming that leadership role. But then in the Marine Corps, and then ending up deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan and put in some really tough situations. I think that the lesson that you're not a leader until you make other leaders. And so, really sharing the courage it takes to wear uniform and the storytelling, being the Marine Corps' champion evangelicist to share the courage and talk about what the Marines can do, and then making other leaders, preparing people to take your position at some point, is really the biggest leadership lesson I learned, and how to set people up for success.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I could tell that you love helping others, right? And I think that's what we're put on this world for, is to serve and help others, right? So
That's right.
the sooner we could learn that, the better. So you did serve in some. You mentioned Iraq and Afghanistan. I know you served in some intense battles in Fallujah, Afghanistan. Was there ever a moment that you thought, this may be it? I may not make it out today?
Well, Dave, I spent a 1 year in Anbar province in
Okay.
2006. And so if you can remember the places like Fallujah, Ramadi, all throughout Anbar province, every day was danger was lurking around the corner. So, and my team, myself and another Marine named Lynn Kinney, we were out every day covering stories, taking photos, taking video, escorting media, escorting a satellite dish up and putting it up at small outposts so we could do live media interviews. And I thought at any time that could be it. I mean, mortars were dropping in, there was overhead fire, there was
IEDs. Yeah.
IEDs on the road, helos going down. So we were traveling by road and by air all the time. So we were always at risk. And so, I kind of checked those fears at the door when I
Okay, good.
left the
Yep.
States,
Okay.
and every day was, you'd hear about fellow Marines and soldiers, and even sailors, some Seabees that were killed, within proximity of where we were. I couldn't even go to all the memorials. There were so many memorials every week, every month, that I didn't even have time to go to all of them because there were so many. So I felt at peace with whatever was going to happen, and
Okay.
so surely you have to just keep moving forward and moving on and continue the mission regardless of what was going on, and stay alive, stay healthy, come back in one piece. So I feel very blessed. So to, live this life to the fullest and share the blessing it is to have survived all of that. And while many people did not. And so a calling also to say their names, the ones that didn't survive, the ones that were killed in action. And so do everything I can to do to always remember their sacrifice and be close to their family members, and then share the courage it takes to wear a uniform, and share that with the American people who may have forgotten.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I think when you're going through tough times, whether it's battle or life, you can't really put the focus on yourself, right? Like we said earlier, serve
That's
others
right.
and help others. And when you're out in the battlefield, it's like you're not. It's like I'm helping my buddies and the other Marines that I'm out with, and making sure that they're okay as well, which is awesome. Love that, Amy. Thank you. So you worked all over the globe. Is there a mission that stands out after all these years that just sticks out the most for you?
Well, there were some unexpected deployments to places like Romania, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore. But my assignment to Poland, of all
Oh,
places,
wow.
was something that I really wasn't expecting. It was short fuse, so I didn't have a lot of time to research it, and I had to find out where is Poland on the map exactly. And so I learned a lot about our Navy's mission in Poland.
Okay.
And I was there for about 6 months during the summertime and then going into winter. And so I learned that no matter where we serve in the world, is that you can take the American out of America, but you can never take the America out of the American, no matter where we are. And so
Right.
it was an honor and a privilege to serve with sailors in a base near the border of the Baltic Sea in a place called Rejukovo. And a lot of people don't know this, but the Navy has an anti-ballistic missile defense system that is located in Poland. And there's about 100, 150 sailors on watch at any time of the day and night, so that basically they're monitoring an Aegis ashore ballistic missile system. So if the event that there's a ballistic missile that enters into the European airspace, we have the technology and the capability and the skills to shoot a ballistic missile out of outer space to protect our European allies. And so I was there bouncing between, we have one in Romania and one in Poland.
Okay.
It's our commitment to NATO for that. Basically, they call it the shield. And so it's been up and running for about 2 years, but it's been in the works for about 10 years. And so it finally came online about a year and a half ago. And so I was there in 2019. And so I lived out in town in an apartment, but I got to, travel a lot around Poland and learn a lot about the culture. And I have some Polish roots. So I did a little genealogy research and found some connections that I have going back a few generations. So that was exciting for me. But learning about our mission in Poland, a lot about ballistic missile defense, and then also exploring the culture there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a big mission, right? To protect everyone. So it's like at a different level, which is incredible. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had Polish background, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson you learned? Because you traveled a lot of different places, as far as experiencing different cultures.
Well, I think, travel is the one thing that people can do to expand your, a great gratitude and appreciation for being an American, but also realizing that the human condition and the human species, we're all more alike than we are different. But I think I learned the value of what it means to be a US citizen. And
Okay.
touching down anytime back into the States, you feel a sense of relief and gratitude. But I think when you explore and realize how blessed we are to live in America, it just really puts a higher price tag on the freedoms that we have and that it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Places not so fortunate as Poland, let's say people in Malaysia or Sri Lanka,
Mhm.
other places that people live in a much more, say, dire situation. I traveled to India last year as well. And so when you see the poverty and the struggles that people have, you look at it from an outsider's perspective. But when you see it up close and personal, you really just thank God of how blessed we are here in
Yes.
America.
Yes, exactly. I think everyone should travel around the world, at least one or two different countries, to open their mind and just, you know, understand what a blessing we have. So, you know,
It does expand your horizons, just more than education, more than sitting in a classroom, more than watching a documentary. You really have to put I would say boots on the ground
right.
in a foreign country to understand your position in life, your position in America, and the privilege it is to be the I'm say the world leader, but then also act as an ambassador on the behalf of America to show just how grateful and how much gratitude we have of our positioning, but that also Americans are generous people. We come to the aid of others. And so when it is a responsibility that when you do international travel that you act in such a way. And so that is a privilege. And to have a blue passport with the United States markings on it is really a privilege.
Yeah, I think we all definitely need to be great ambassadors because I think a lot of different locations, countries don't think the best of us. So if we could change that, that would be great. So how did you forge the mindset that you have right now as far as success goes, right? Because I was in the Marine Corps, I was in technology, worked for some large companies, and no matter where I went, Marine Corps or whatever, there was always the 80-20 rule, right? How did you gain that mindset to be in that 20 or 10%?
Well, I think that hard work speaks for itself. Sorry, to be hardworking yet humble, but stay hungry because those three H's, hardworking, humble, and hungry, is really a recipe for success. When you're hardworking, that shines through. When you're humble, people will follow you. Because that's a trait that I think that we all wish we could have a little bit more of. And then staying hungry for leveling up. What can I do better? How can I improve myself? Where does growth come from? And so when you have goals and visions and growth, really, I would say goals are great, but you have to just put your focus and your mind on growth. What can I do next year that's different from this year? And so I think that those are kind of my three elements for success is hardworking. You know, in the military, they say, don't raise your hand to volunteer for anything. Well,
Right.
I was always the one to like, we need three volunteers. Okay, I'll volunteer. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but 99% of the time it was something really cool. And so just blindly volunteering for things really opened up doors and put me in a position to make a difference and do fun things. So if you get the chance to volunteer for something that you don't know, just have faith that it'll work out.
So I'm glad you were one of the volunteers, obviously. But where did you learn that mindset? Did you learn that at home? Did you learn it in the Marines? Where did it come from? Because a lot of people, like I said, 80% of them, people that we deal with, don't have that.
Well, believe it or not, it came from my grandparents.
Okay.
So, as a kid, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents because my parents were separated. So all the kids migrated over to grandma and grandpa's house, and they were came of, the greatest generation. They grew up, without much, and then ended up becoming officers in the military and then served in World War II. And they saw what had happened in the Pacific Island campaigns. And, then they came home back to America after the war was over. Somehow they connected without Facebook. I have no idea, but they got connected, moved out west in the migration in 1946 after the war. And so their spirit of can do, we can get anything done, we're in it for the long haul, really stuck with me. And
Okay.
so the way they lived their life was just so admirable. And they literally volunteered their time as something that they did in retirement. My grandmother was a nurse for 20 years, and she taught nursing for 20 years, but still had time to raise 6 kids
Wow.
and volunteer in her community. So those are, where would we be without people like that to showcase? So I just picked that up. And when you go in the military, do what you can, where you can, with what you have. And so that was, sort of my either people call me stupid or just, a fool for volunteering for so much. But I think that those are some of the things that are proven success strategies for positioning yourself for greater things. And I wouldn't say getting recognized, but saying, you know what, there's value for me in being able to volunteer for things. And so I got that from them. The gift of patriotism and the gift of volunteering. Of course, my dad was just so patriotic and took us kids down to San Francisco to watch the Fleet Weeks and took us to the Veterans Day parades and made sure that we knew the value of service and sacrifice. So the gift of patriotism can never be taken away. But I think when you don't have a lot of money and that's what you have, those are the things that stick with you and that you can, build on when you get older in life.
Wow, they definitely gave you great examples, right? And I heard you mention on another podcast, it's like, people are always watching us, right? So make sure we're
Yes.
always a great example of what we're doing, right? And try to be the leader like you're volunteering, right? And and just help others and be patriotic, like you mentioned, which is great. I love that, Amy. Thank you. What keeps you motivated and moving forward every day?
Well, I think the promise of what's happening today, what's going on, what's new. I love the connections that, with social media can bring. Um, as I start to think about closing out my military career, I'll be retiring soon from the Navy Reserves. I think that's going to free up more time. And what can I do? What impact can I have? Where does this take me? And so maximizing every minute. And, we don't think about it every day, but most days I do remember, it's kind of ingrained in the DNA of the sacrifices of people that I served with in the military that don't have that chance. And so, what can I do to live my life to the maximum amount? What can I do to maximize my potential? What can I do that's better uh, in honor of those that were killed in combat? And so, or, have died as a result of cancer that they, got as a result from serving in dangerous places. So, when you live in that framework, there's just an unyielding desire to do something important today. Because, as we get older, every year is a gift. And so I don't want to waste it sitting on a beach or, kind of, I mean, even though doing nothing is doing something, as my husband reminds me. So I just think that living with intention and an impact and not letting a day go by that doesn't make a difference or do something fun for yourself or for your friends and your family.
I love that. Yeah, I think your husband's right. We need to recharge sometimes, right? Let him know that I said that. I know he's right.
Yes,
I'm sure
yes. And
I'm sure he'll love
y-
that.
yeah, and in the military, what was impactful too was designing a training schedule where they build in white space,
Okay.
it's on the calendar, but we're not doing anything. But that is an opportunity for a reset, for thinking, for planning. So building in white space, because if you don't, you're just going to be stacked full of meetings and no time to like really enjoy and sort of relax. And when you relax and you have time to think, you can create ideas and design, your next day or your next week, or remember, oh, I have to call that person or I have to follow up on that issue. But, we've all been in that phase in our life where we're just nothing but meetings, nothing
Right.
but go, go, go. And you feel like a zombie because you're like, I don't even know what day it is. I don't know where I am and what city I'm in today because you're on the go all the time. And I felt when I was doing that, I felt really disconnected
Yeah.
from myself. And so building in white space for time to think, time to be creative, time for physical and mental health are
Wow.
so important. In this urgent culture, go, 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 you really have to schedule it or make sure you plan for it and time out when you need to.
Absolutely, and that leads into my next couple questions regarding, a lot of leaders and people that are successful, say body, mind, and spirit, right? Keep those all at, work on those daily, right? What do you work out daily for yourself?
I do. I
Okay.
find that is really the most important time for me. And
Yes.
if I don't get some kind of workout in,
Hmm.
Amy's a very grouchy person. But about 10 years ago, we got a dog
Okay.
when we were living on the island of Guam. We were on Guam for about 5 years, and they have a really bad stray dog problem. So we rescued a little tiny baby puppy. They call him a boonie dog. And so the beauty of that, and I'd never had a dog before, so I didn't understand these dog people. I had no idea what was going on with why these people were so infatuated with their dogs. And now I completely understand.
Now
But
you're a
the
dog
power,
person.
yes, the power of getting a dog it changed my life, honestly. And maybe something
Yeah.
so insignificant, but uh so I take her for a walk in the morning and then in the evening. And so those walks where I'd never really walked as a workout before have really changed my life. And so the purpose for walking her, but it also helps me time to think, time for fresh air, time for exercise. But I love, I still run a lot or I lift or I swim or ride my bike, but walking the dog is really um serves a lot of purposes. And so for people who don't have dogs, I couldn't for many years because I was always traveling and always
Right.
gone. It just wasn't practical. But if you can, it'll change your life. So working out is really at this age, and I'm 55 this year. So
Nice.
uh I I really value that time because as you get older, it gets harder every year. But you keep up the stamina, keep up the physical part, things start to fall into place.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to keep your body moving at all times, right? Whether it's weights or walking, whatever it is, try to do something every day, but it affects your mind immensely, right? I've seen so many people change their lives just from working out. Some people that were depressed in the past never worked out, now they're working out in the gym every day, and it's like, holy cow, what happened to you, right? So it's like definitely something that's really highly recommended.
The
Talking
the
about
connection, yeah, the connection between the mind and the physical they're so interlinked. But I was lucky to my parents were very active, playing tennis, hiking,
okay.
running, and now my mom has the three dogs, so she does her walking and goes to classes and things like that. So they're still very active. But I was blessed to have very active parents growing up in the 70s. They were playing frisbee all the time. They were playing tennis in the heyday of tennis. So if anything, people with younger kids, the gift you can give them is teaching them early about getting outside and, hiking. None of this costs money. It just takes a little bit of planning, but the benefits will last a lifetime.
100%. And you learned by another example. Look at that.
Yeah.
Uh, so we were talking about mine, right? A lot of operators, a lot of people that were in battle. They struggled with PTSD. Did you have any challenges with that at all coming out of or you're not really out, but after Fallujah and Ramadi and Afghanistan?
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
I feel that if anything, just the sadness and, as you can remember when we were watching in August of 2021, right? What was happening in the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Right.
I had never felt so sad and just gutted from even though I wasn't there in Afghanistan at that time. I served three separate tours in Afghanistan in 2003, 2013, 2018. So people used to joke that I should, take up residency or citizenship in Afghanistan and learning the language and having many friends, service member, other Afghan commandos that I served with, and then all the media and my interpreters. So I was very invested. I was connected to the people in Afghanistan. And I was the whole month of August and beyond, I was just so gutted and sick to my stomach that it happened. And so it really triggered some anxiety and uneasy feelings, I'll tell you that. But I think that my coping mechanism was being able to share the stories of the
Okay.
service members that lived there. And then also another coping mechanism was adopting and really diving into the Stoic philosophies and the Stoic teachings about not letting external events affect your internal. So just having a little bit of boundaries and control over what's happening on the outside didn't affect me on the inside. And so I wish that in the special operations community, they talk more about the Stoic philosophy. I wish that as a general whole, they would do that for the military,
Yes.
across the services, across the spectrum of all, um, the troops. But they don't, and I wish that they would. But those philosophies really helped me.
Love it. Yeah. So you had a new mission. So basically, you weren't focusing on a lot of the stuff that was happening in the past, which is pretty cool. And I have some people on here that have done psychedelics. They've done stem cells and a new mission. I just heard a Navy SEAL. I'm gonna try to get a hold of him. Navy SEAL Marine guy that he was talking about that something that changed his life was faith. Right? Faith is the one that really got his mindset in the right spot, and he does that daily. How important was faith for you, Amy, and during your time and now?
Well, I think that so I grew up. I went to Catholic high school. My grandparents and my parents were all of Catholic faith, but I I kind of weaved in and out of, a formal religion through the years. But I think my faith in humanity and my faith in my own grit and determination to be successful and uh, survive, sort of a survival technique, was very strong. So um, while I think it's important to have faith in, religion or God, or you can have faith in yourself and know that bet on you. Who's gonna carry you through? It's you. I feel that those are the internal mechanisms that you have to have conversations with yourself. Of course, the faith that surviving, and it's the will of you are really going to either make or break yourself. And so when you have multiple dimensions coming through of how you're going to respond and react and survive, it really comes down to your will, your mental framework, how you see yourself in the world, and that realize that it's only life after all. Everybody's struggling, everybody's going through something, so you may as well just put your money on you and not leave it up to chance, I would
Mhm.
say, and don't let other people dictate where you go in life. But you are the captain of your own ship, so they say.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, I was in a Catholic school too, so I could relate.
Yeah.
So tell us about your wonderful book. I've had a lot of authors on here lately. I think I'm listening to the last guest, so yours is next. I'm going to be listening to yours here shortly. But tell us a little bit about your book, what it means to you and what you were trying to accomplish, please.
Yeah, my book is titled Heroes Live Here, a tribute to Camp Pendleton Marine since 9/11. And it was really a passion project, as you mentioned. Basically, after it was all said and done, I had served 5 combat tours. It was 2 tours in Iraq and 3 tours in Afghanistan. I had tens of thousands of photos from my
Wow.
deployments and many, many stories. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton for many years, and many of the deployments that from the Marine Corps came from Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, which is situated just between Los Angeles and San Diego for frame of reference. There's about 50,000 Marines stationed there. And so, what I learned through my research of putting together some photo images of memorials and markers on the base, I learned that more Marines from Camp Pendleton were killed in action than any other one base or station in America through that 20-year span. So that's a heavy lift for any one base or station. There's
Right.
thousands of people stepped off from Camp Pendleton to support enduring freedom and Iraqi freedom, all the way going back from the very early days, right after 9/11. Marines from 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit were on a Liberty call in Australia when 9/11 happened. They were all recalled back to the ship and set off for Afghanistan and touched down, put boots on the ground in October of 2001. And as you recall, watching the TV in August of 2021, literally almost 20 years to the day when Marines at the Abbey Gate were killed. Within minutes, we found out that those Marines were from a unit on Camp Pendleton.
Oh man.
And
Okay.
within minutes, the memorials, the tributes, the photos, the flowers started arriving at the Camp Pendleton's front gate to memorialize those that were lost. And so my book was actually gone to print. I pulled the book back. I said I have to include this final chapter of our Camp Pendleton Marines that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So I put a chapter in there in the book, but it chronicles the beautiful and wonderful tributes to Marines that have served throughout the years, starting in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and then, of
Wow.
course, Iraq and Afghanistan. So I put it all in a book. Really, it was to provide closure and comfort to the Gold Star families, but also to the Marines who no longer served here anymore, but just to let them know that we're remembering those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So with nice photos, it's really a coffee table book with
Okay.
photos inside and nice tributes and stories of people who have served here before.
I love that. What a way to honor them. So I'm actually gonna have to order the hardcover then, or the book itself, to see those pictures because I won't be able to listen to those. So that'd be great. So I'll do that
You'll
instead.
you'll recognize names in there. People
Okay.
like Doug Zembiak, Major Megan McClung,
Oh wow.
Travis Manion. You'll recognize some of those names and faces. Of all their common tie was that they were all stationed at Camp Pendleton, and so
Wow.
the base, and I live near the base. It holds special meaning for a lot of people who had been stationed there.
Oh, so you're still near Pendleton right now?
I am,
Oh, that's awesome.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I lived in Vista a couple years, so love Camp Pendleton. It's an awesome place. So all the other pictures, have you put those online at all, or what's your plan with all those pictures that you took?
Well, that's a great idea. I would love to put the folders online. I do have several of the photos from the book and excerpts from the book at my website, Heroes Live Here. And so I've been overwhelmed. The expectations have exceeded my original intent
Right.
with the book. So I do get requests to come speak and talk about the history of the base. I even include the history of the base, which is like that rich California history going back long before The base was even erected in 1942. The base was home to as a working cattle ranch and home to Pio Pico, which was the last Spanish governor of California when California was under the rule of Spain. And so I talk about some of that rich California history in the book. And so I also do talks on the history of the base and the
Wow.
legacy of the history of the Marines at Camp Pendleton. And so I love to connect with people. A lot of people say, "Oh, I was born on Camp Pendleton," or "My dad served on Camp Pendleton," or "We go there during the summer." So I love hearing about the stories from people that have great memories from Camp Pendleton.
Wow. So the base is not even that old.
1942.
Wow. That's
So it was named
amazing.
after Joseph Pendleton, who knew that the Marine Corps was going to need a West Coast training base. And the War Department purchased the land from a working cattle rancher in 1942. And then the Marines marched up from San Diego and began operating, and troops that were shipping out to go to the Pacific Island hopping campaigns were trained right here at Camp Pendleton, and
Wow.
including my grandfather. And so I didn't know that either. And so I have pictures of him doing his Amtrak training, and then he shipped off to war from here. And so it holds special meaning for a lot of people out there.
Wow. That's amazing. I could see you doing tours in the future.
Yeah, yeah, I've partnered with a couple tour groups to
Oh,
give
have you
tours, and
really?
when
Oh, no
yeah, and
way.
when I was
Okay.
stationed on the base in uniform, I used to give tours to veteran groups and community members, and so that's how I was blessed to learn so much about the history by giving tours as part of my job working in public affairs on the
Wow.
base.
When I come out there next, I'll look you up. Make sure I go on one of those.
Definitely.
That'd be awesome.
Anytime. I'd love
Aw-
to show you around.
Awesome. Awesome. And how can people connect with you when they want to have you come in to speak or yeah, come in for speaking
Yeah.
engagement?
Well, I do love to connect with people on LinkedIn is really
Okay.
probably my platform of choice, but I'm on Instagram as well. People go to my website, Heroes Live Here, and connect with me. So, or just look me up. I love to connect that way as well.
Awesome. Awesome. If how can a person succeed if they're not, if they're not sure what they want to do with their life, if they're younger, whether going into the military or not? What would you recommend for them?
Well, I think that first you have to get clarity on your purpose in life.
Mhm. Yeah.
What are the things you're interested in? And, nobody really sat me down and said that as a kid or, high school. That's why I spent a
They
few
said you'll figure
years.
it out. You'll figure it out,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Uh, Not sure. Do whatever you want. So, I wish I'd had that sort of roadmap, fill in the blanks. But as you know, kids today, they need inspiration. And so if we can inspire patriotism above all else, the military is a great place for people to start their careers if they're not sure, if you're not ready for college. And of course, I didn't have the grades to go to college. I by no means had the means to go to college. And so I felt that that was my calling anyway. I was just so interested in the military, and I thought if I can do that, it would be a great stepping stone. I never imagined in a million years I'd be 32 years later still serving, but it was really a
Wow.
great foundation. And people like yourself that go in the military and then take that and then go on to do great things. So either way you approach it, whether you do 4 years or 30 years, you can really, there's a lot to be gained from that. Not only the skills you learn, but the people you meet. And I've made lifelong friends in the military, and look at you
Yes.
too. You're connecting with those military folks, and they go on to do great things. You say, I want to be like that guy or that girl, whatever they have, the it factor. It puts you in touch with so many people, especially these academy graduates and people who've had very interesting lives, who have a great deal of leadership potential, who go on and make an impact within the military and then after the military. And so people looking right now to find inspiration, look to your nonprofit organizations, look to your military, your veteran groups. There's some wonderful people out there succeeding in real estate and tech,
Yes.
in in the creative arts. I just attended recently, a couple weeks ago, a wonderful award ceremony honoring veterans working in the entertainment and Hollywood industry who are
Oh, nice. Okay.
super successful. And so that there's such a strong veteran network out there these days where it wasn't maybe when you and I first, left active duty the first time, other 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
It wasn't that way. And so there wasn't this step up and hold my hand, we're going to go together mentality. It was, the VA maybe, or the VFW, or, some other organizations that maybe weren't aligned to my interests or what I want to do in life. And so now there's people everywhere ready
Yeah.
to lend a helping hand and point you in the right direction. So I love to connect with, college age kids too, especially who are not sure, maybe they want a commissioning program, or um, maybe just in the reserves and wondering, is it something that they can do? I love to talk to people about opportunities and careers in broadcast journalism.
Nice.
Or the number one question I get from people is, I want to write a book. How did you do it? And so I love to share, what tips and what secrets that work for me of how to do independent publishing, or how to leverage that and turn that into a successful speaking career.
Oh, there you go.
So,
Okay.
and I didn't have a roadmap, and I'm just figuring it out, but I have some great tips for success in that area as well.
Yeah, that's awesome that you do that for others, Amy, because so many people have no clue what they want to do, like we spoke about earlier, right? So if you could have like a business coach or or a mentor, like Amy is saying, right, to guide you along, help you along, but bottom line, try to do something that you love, right, and then figure out where to go from there, and connect with successful people like Amy, right? The more you're connecting with the right people, the more your network's going to grow. I had another Marine on. He was a little bit older as well. He said, "Hey, Dave, your Rolodex is more important than the money you have in the bank." So
That's right.
for those
That's
those who know
right.
what a Rolodex was, it was a little card file that flipped, and you have all your contact name and numbers on there, which is now your phone, right? So, but yes,
Right. And nowadays, with LinkedIn, it's easy to connect with people that you want to be in the same room with or attend events, and everything and anything is on the table. Like everything is open to you. So it's a big world out there, and it's up to you, but you do have to show up, you have to
yes.
engage, you have to connect with people. People won't be knocking down your door, but it's up to you. Everything is at your fingertips and on the table. So go for it. Go get it, engage, learn, volunteer. Some of the best opportunities and people to network with and learn from come through volunteer opportunities. And yeah, you don't want to get up and go do something on a Saturday morning, go do a beach cleanup, or go to a fundraiser on a Saturday night, but those are the times when those people who show up are serious about networking, about making things happen and making an impact. And that when you get in the room with those types of people, the room filled with, I say big ballers and shot callers,
Yeah.
you know that you're on the right track. And so when you put yourself in close proximity, in the same space with people who are influential or making an impact, that's where the magic happens.
That's an awesome place to start because when you're doing that volunteering, it's hard to find people that you could actually count on, that are honorable, reliable, right? So if people see that you're that type of person, guess what? Sooner or later, they're going to bring you into their circle and maybe, have an opportunity for you, right? Which is great.
That's
But
right.
like Amy said though, you have to be there or else they're not going to know about you. They're not just because they see your name on LinkedIn is doesn't mean anything, right? They want to, you want to meet those people in person, have a relationship, let them know that you're dedicated, and the other things that I mentioned, which a lot, that's awesome, awesome advice, Amy. Thank you.
That's right. And as we went into COVID, okay, everything is online, but it's now time, if you're not already, to start engaging, show up if you want to make things happen. In person is the way to go. There's just nothing that can replace that in-person networking, that in-person engagement. So I encourage everyone to, get out there, show up, be seen, make an impact, be a resource for people. If you have an expertise or something you want to share with people, tell people about it. So you have
Right.
to be visible.
I love it. Amy, what's one part of your story that the world needs to hear that you've never said online before? Can you think of something?
Well, I think that and without going down a rabbit hole, I think that being able to share the story, and I really commend you and thank you for reaching out to me because a lot of women don't necessarily get an opportunity to talk about their service journey. Like we see a lot of the guys, the vet bro culture out there is very strong,
Right.
but a lot of the women veterans out there maybe get overlooked or they're underrepresented. So I appreciate the opportunity to share not only my story, but other women veterans out there who are doing amazing. And so what I think is that shows to other women who are looking for an inspirational guide. Men can be inspirational too, but when you see women who have gone through the journey, the service journey, and still standing, still living, still thriving, that means a lot. And so, really, life really only has one rule, and it's don't quit. Um, and that's been kind of my mantra. But I would say that some of those things that, maybe the good, the bad, the ugly, the blood, sweat, and tears of the past doesn't have to define me, but going forward, elevating other women's voices, connecting with strong, influential, impactful women that men and women can both have those leadership roles. And so I appreciate the opportunity
Yeah.
to share that.
It's definitely an honor
Um,
to have you on here, Amy. I should have had you on here
yeah.
a lot sooner. So thank you so much for being on there. You have a lot of wisdom, and like I said, you've traveled all over the world. You're a giving person, wanting to help others, which is awesome. So if you were 20 years old today, would you take the same route, or what do you think?
Well, looking back, I definitely think there's ways I could have improved, or if I could go back, I might do it a little differently. But, some of those hardships or pain points, you're just not the same person without them. So
Right.
I'm grateful for all the ups and the downs and the missteps and the mistakes, because without those, you don't really have growth. If you're just doing everything perfectly and executing with precision on everything, you don't learn those blind spots and those missteps. So, but of course, in hindsight, in retrospect, there's many areas that I made mistakes and learn from them. And I tell people,
Yes.
I made 1,000 mistakes. You don't have to make my mistakes, make your own mistakes, but here's what I learned. And so if people could, learn from your mistakes, my
Right.
mistakes, people can be that much further along in their careers and be able to make their own mistakes. But I think that's what the value of these podcasts is. Say, like, here's one mistake I made, here's this, don't make that mistake. You can learn from them. And so putting this out there as an educational tool and inspiration is so helpful. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's amazing that, when we make mistakes and we're going through tough times is when we learn the most, right? And I think the great part about it, we're learning, understanding, getting better. But the great thing the next day is going to hopefully, it's going to probably be better, right? So you don't have to don't live in the past, don't get stuck on that one day, right? Because one day is nothing compared to what our lives are, which I love that. What's the best advice a mentor ever gave you about in your career?
Well, I think that treating people how you want to be treated is sort of a life's mantra, and people always say that. Um, the golden rule. If anything, above all else, those are the core principles of humankind, of being an American. Treat others how you want to be treated. And so, luckily, we don't live in a class system, but oftentimes it feels that we do.
Hmm.
The haves and the have-nots. And so, when we share empathy and can be empathetic to others, instead of just I got mine, so you have to suck it up and you have to do this and do that, or suffer the consequences of your actions. Sometimes I think that we have to step back and remember that not everyone has had an easy life, or that they have a lot more challenges and they're starting from, a place of even further down the class system or down the ringer. And so remembering that. So those were some important lessons I had to learn growing up. Fairly privileged, came from no money whatsoever. I would say a poor Catholic family. But with that comes also actual privilege compared to other people in our society. So just being mindful of that from time to time is a good reminder of just how blessed we really are.
Right, exactly. And with everything going on in nowadays, some people don't appreciate what they have, right? So I love that we need to be grateful. We need to do the right thing. And unfortunately, sometimes the right thing is spun the wrong way, right? So, but I think if you're always doing something that your heart really knows and you're learning and understanding more about various situations, because I mean, you've been in media, stuff could be spun whatever way they want it to, right? So
That's
uh,
right. It's so important nowadays to I would say disconnect from media, but working in media, there is a tinge of I would say not non-reality, and it's can be um altered in many different ways. So you just have to be mindful of what you're digesting every day.
yeah, I had it was many years ago, and I didn't wind up doing it till the last 3 or 4 years. This is when newspapers were still popular. This guy that was a multi-millionaire. He goes, Dave, you know what? I never watched the news. I never read the newspaper. He said, if it gets bad enough, someone's going to let me know. So,
Yes, that's
uh,
great. That's a great advice, especially in this era. And that's why, the rise in popularity of podcasts, it's very authentic, it's genuine, it's real people, no agendas. It's Media is a for-profit industry, and the media also has agendas. And,
right,
working in media for many years, I was a part of the machine. Um, I tell people what was, going on, and it's a profit machine, and so
right.
people just have to know that before they watch it. It's kind of like reading a food label, like, what is in this? Let me read the label, because when you start reading the labels, you realize what's in it, and then you can, okay, I know what's in it, I know what I'm getting. And so those are that topic in particular. Media literacy is very important to me, to help the kids, especially of this age, understand what they're watching and what they're seeing.
How do you balance that, Amy?
Well, I'll admit I have the TV on all day. I do look for breaking news, but I do look at the source. If I know what media ownership is, I understand who owns what media and why they're driving certain agendas. And I help people understand that too, talking through it. But I do think that it's getting to a critical point where, if kids don't understand it, then they fall for it. It's
Right,
like a trick,
exactly.
it's a trap.
Right,
And so if you know and you can balance it, but I say sometimes I turn off the TV, let's just listen to some music, or let's have some silence. So understanding what you're getting is so important, and what you're feeding your brain. So you have to recognize those triggers, understand it, and set limits, boundaries. And screen time too is even as adults, the screen time managing, but for kids, even more important. I have a 15-year-old niece, and so I talked to her about it, helping her understand, and there's good boundaries and control on that. But we're seeing that a lot. It's causing some disciplinary problems within the military too. Screen
yes.
time, engagements, understanding the cyberbullying, understand what's going on. It's a new era, it's new territory that we're all trying to navigate.
Yeah, I think anything that you do that's over the top is not good for you. Whether, even drinking water, it's many years ago, it's like, yeah, you could die from drinking too much water. It's like, yeah, you could die from drinking too much water. So guess what? If you're ingesting wrong information, or a lot of information that's contradicts some of the basic principles that we all grew up with, that's not good for you. But I think it's always good if you are watching media, take everything with a grain of salt, do your research, and understand, like Amy said, what's the agenda behind that media, right? Or if not, you're gonna
That's right.
just gonna fall for whatever they're telling you, right? It's obviously it's amazing to me that I try to eat healthy, try to work out myself too, but it's amazing that you still see commercials for stuff that's not good for you. You still see people in line for stuff that's not good for you, right? So you have to be educated and understand to try to make yourself better because we only have one body, right? We're not going to live forever. So if you're not taking care of it, I could tell you the media is not going to take care of it for you. So you need to make sure you're doing
Yep.
something. Um, Amy, we're about wrapped up. Thank you so much. It's definitely a pleasure to meet you more, and not in person, but at least on screen. And we'll make sure it happens in person. What's one thing that you want our listeners today to remember about you?
Well, one of my favorite quotes by Benjamin Franklin, and this goes back to 1738. He published this in Poor Richard's Almanac. He says,
Okay.
either write something worth reading or do something worth writing about. And so
Okay.
I encourage people, my message to people, veterans or, really anyone, is that
Right.
sharing your story is so important. So whether it's a book, a journal, online, share your story, an interesting story, so people will be interested in what you're doing, or do something worth writing about and reading about. So, travel to India, or go do, participate in a beach cleanup, or do something that's worth writing about. And so, when you live your life like that, so if you're writing, talking, sharing, engaging with the world, those are my messages and my call to action, especially to veterans, because the next generation who are going to need to be inspired are always listening, always watching. So be that veteran, be that person, that citizen that we can all look up to and be proud of.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Ben Franklin and Amy. uh, and going back to media, right? Obviously media can be very positive. You could start your own podcast, you could start blogging, whatever the case is. I met this young lady in a coffee shop like 2 months ago. Doing some work in a coffee shop. I heard her over talking that she was going to be posting some stuff. So I asked her, it's like, hey, what do you do? She goes, well, I'm in my last year of college. She goes, the last 4 years, I've been posting videos every day of my daily life in college, and it's turned into a great resource. I go, have you monetized it? She goes, oh yeah, I monetized it big time. I go, okay, I have to know because I just started my journey about a year and a couple months ago. It's like, are you, she goes, I have a lot of followers on TikTok and a lot of followers on Instagram. I go, can I ask you how much you're making, you're making now? She goes, yeah, absolutely. She goes, I'm making 150,000 a month right now out of, and she was still in college. So she's like right on track. So there is some huge benefits to media, right? So I just want to make sure I bring that up as well, not just spin it on the negative side.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing people succeed and figuring out a way to monetize their creativity, their inspiration, their hard work. Because as you know, and I've hosted podcasts and TV shows, and um, it's a lot of work. You have
Yeah,
to know, you have to learn all the tools, or you have to hire someone and then coordinate the content, and it's a full-time job. And so, but I love success stories like that.
that's awesome. Anything else you'd like to say before I start closing out, Amy?
Now, I appreciate the opportunity to join you today. Thank you for hosting me.
Awesome, awesome. It's been an absolute honor having you on today. Thank you for your sacrifice and your leadership and your example for others. You didn't just serve; you continue to serve, which is I love, which is the mission we talked about, right? By standing up and helping others. For everyone tuning in today, please share, follow, and subscribe. These stories need to be heard. These lessons can change lives. Stay focused, stay winning. God bless you, and thank you for listening and following.